Welcome to this edition of Workplace Culture Wisdom, a conversation series with experienced leaders. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Workplace Culture Wisdom. My guest today is Jacqueline Gilchrist. Jacqueline is the Director of Program Operations at the Forum, which is a national charity supporting women, trans femme, and non-binary entrepreneurs so that they can build and sustain the success that they envision for themselves and their business. And I have had the great privilege of being a mentor with the Forum for 3 or 4 years now, which is how I know Jacqueline. And Jacqueline, I'm delighted to have you here with me today for this conversation.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm so happy to be here and, grateful to give something back to you after all of the wonderful time that you've given to us. So my pleasure.
Excellent. Well, one of the things that we've talked about is that you can speak to workplace culture both through your organization, the Forum, and also through some of the things that you've been seeing with the women entrepreneurs that you are supporting. So let's start with the Forum and workplace culture at the Forum. And you had just mentioned to me that it is a fully remote organization, and there are lots of people who wonder how you have a healthy workplace culture when it's fully remote and how you build trust and relationship.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, having the remote first workplace is something that I've really appreciated about the Forum during my time here. I feel like what makes it work from our end is that, like you said, we build trust into everything that we do, and we put relationships first when it comes to the way that we work. So, even small things like starting all of our meetings with a personal win and a professional win so that you can get to know both sides of people while you're in those conversations. It kind of gets you into that flow of recognizing your coworker as a person and not just a name on Slack on a screen. And so that kind of sets the foundation for the types of relationships that we try to build with our coworkers. We're cross country as well, so we're working across different time zones, and so even just being on opposite ends of the screen, sometimes it means we're not online at the same time. And so yeah, I think we do a really great job at being intentional about the time that we are spending together, about being intentional about the conversations that we're having, and always recognizing everybody as an individual first and as a person first, and kind of prioritizing building those relationships with one another. And then also kind of the flexibility that we promote within the organization. It really allows us to feel confident that we are going to be online when we need to be, and we're here for each other as a team, but we also know that life happens and there's realities of things that might come up. And so we want to build that, like, we build that flexibility into our work days as well. So if you need to run and pick up the kids because school is calling, or you need to just get out on a walk because it's been a long, stressful day, or you've been in back-to-back meetings on Zoom, then it's something that we really encourage. And I think the fact that we know each other, we know how well we work, and we've seen the results of the work that we've done, like it feels like we can trust each other to be like, yeah, okay, if you're offline, your Slack light is not green right now, it doesn't mean that you're not doing your work. It just means that you're kind of balancing and prioritizing what needs to happen for you in order to do the work that you need to get done.
That's fantastic. And I can certainly attest to the relationship side of things because I felt that from my very first conversation with you in particular.
Mhm.
And that is a really big part of a healthy workplace culture. How big is the team that the Forum has?
Right now, we are around 20 employees. When I started at the Forum, there was, I think, 11. So we've grown quite a bit in the time that I've been here. And yeah, it's a really, really wonderful team. And I think one thing too about growing the team is that we also, when we bring new folks onto the team, like, we think about that culture as part of the reason for bringing them on, or part of the kind of criteria for bringing someone on is like, will they understand this culture? Will they be in alignment with this culture? And so that's a big part of why it works as well, is because we want to make sure that the folks we're bringing onto the team feel as strongly as we do about building relationships within the team.
I love that intentionality because one of the things that we talk about is culture's there anyway. And if you're not intentional about it, you're going to get what you get, and you might not like it so much. And one of the things about culture is because it's kind of invisible in a way, although it's also very tangible because we can sense it and feel it all of the time. Lots of people forget to really think about their culture or to talk about it when they're bringing new people into the team. So it sounds like you've got a winning formula.
Well, we're doing our best. I know a few years ago, we actually, some of the team sat down and they took a look at what are the things that are coming up and like what makes our team work so well and what makes it so special. And then they actually started to like kind of build that into our values. So now we have 5 core values that we make sure that we implement across everything that we do. And even when we're looking at, annual reviews and stuff, all of those values are integrated into our reviews. It's a lens that we apply to everything that we do at the organization. And those were kind of created based on what are we doing right now that's working so well, and how can we kind of put a name to that and then start to make it a more formally recognized thing within the organization.
I'm a big proponent of building values into all aspects of what an organization is doing or what a team is doing. And what you've just described is living the values, and not just living them, but you brought them out from within the team. And so everybody feels some kind of connection to the values. And when you make them living and breathing, then it becomes a core aspect of your workplace culture too.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's just a checkbox or like, words on a screen. It feels like you said it's living and breathing. It's something that we do in everything that we execute.
That's fantastic. Maybe now let's shift our attention a bit to the women that you're working with, small business owners or large business owners. And there's two things that I'm curious about, and one of them is for the businesses that are thriving, or the women who have thriving businesses, what are some of the success ingredients in that? And then later we can talk a bit more about what seems to be going on for some of the people who are struggling. Like, what are the barriers?
Yeah, really good question. And I think when I think about the businesses that are really thriving and flourishing and the folks that we work with where everything's kind of clicking, I think one thing that always comes up for me is almost like a North Star or that guiding value. It's what we call like your why you're doing the business. And I think having a really strong understanding of your why and a really strong understanding of what it is that keeps driving you forward and a passion for the work that you're doing is something that comes out so often in those businesses that are thriving because they really believe in what they're doing. It's not just something that they saw and it was like, well, that could be maybe kind of cool, or I'm not that interested in this but it seems lucrative, but it's something that they are feeling really passionate about. And people who continue to come back to that why, I feel like have the reminder and the encouragement for, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and it helps push them forward through all of the inevitable kind of tricky pieces or sticky points that come up as you grow a business.
Yeah, there will always be challenges that make themselves present, and especially for organizations that are growing.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. It's like there's a few different kind of key challenge points that we have that come up often in the entrepreneur journey, and it's like each different stage comes with it like a different barrier that comes up that you need to be able to push through. And if you have that resilience, if you have that passion, if you have that drive, it makes it easier to get through those sticky points versus if it's something that your heart is not in, it can be really challenging because those pieces are so often emotional. They take a lot of energy, they take a lot of effort to get through those next pieces.
Can you just maybe share a couple of the barriers that come up typically?
Yeah, some of the maybe the growth points or those pieces that come up. I mean, in the earlier days, it might be making that transition from working on a business part-time as you have a full-time job to making it your full-time thing. I also think often one huge milestone that comes up is when you do have to have your first hire. You've realized that the work that you're doing is outpacing what you have the capacity to do alone. And so, bringing on your first team member is a huge piece that comes up often. And then I think the next big milestone that I hear a lot, and it's not something that's super tangible, but what I hear from them is like starting to work on the business instead of in the business. So going from that executor to that leader to that strategy side of things versus, being the one sending the emails yourselves or making the products by hand yourself or whatever it might be.
I remember in the early days of my business, that whole notion of working on the business versus working in the business, and how important that is to be able to pull yourself up out of all of the details,
Mhm.
to scan what's going on and where you are, and think strategically about moving forward. And that's a skill that can be hard to develop,
Mhm.
especially the way most of us grow our businesses. So
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think, to the point I made earlier about a lot of folks who are in these businesses, like they're doing it because they're passionate about it. And so a lot of times what that can mean is that it's hard to let go some of that control as well. It's hard to, pass off this task that you have been doing, manufacturing the product. Like it's so, so, so important and personal, that it can sometimes be hard to pass those tasks off to other people. And so I know a lot of what I hear from folks when they're kind of at that stage is finding the right team is really important. It's really critical to being able to make that transition, because you need to be able to have people that you trust and see the same vision as you, approach things the same way, or understand the importance of the business and the challenge that you're trying to solve with your business in kind of the same way that you do.
that makes so much sense. And, one of the things we talk about with worldviews and worldview intelligence is our sense of identity. And so, as you're describing some of these barriers or these transition points for people, it's coming along with that is a sense of identity. And so my identity has been as a solopreneur for however long, and now all of a sudden my identity needs to shift and expand to accommodate that I've got other people working for me, whether that's employees or subcontractors or whatever the case may be. And then there's another, when I think about identity, as a business becomes really successful, there's another identity shift and expansion that needs to take place there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like when you start to grow to that point, it's almost like the business also has its own identity that's separate from you. Whereas for a long time, as you're starting the business, it's so intertwined, like your identity and the business's identity. And it's almost like you get to a certain point where you have to separate the two as well.
Yeah. Well, and that's when we talk about worldviews, individuals have worldviews and organizations have worldviews, so do teams.
Mhm.
And so that would be a really interesting disentanglement
Mhm.
between myself and my business, while also holding on to the alignment between my worldview and my business worldview.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Can see it would be a very tricky thing to navigate.
Yeah. For the businesses that are struggling a little bit more or are having a hard time getting past the barriers, and as we think about workplace culture or values like you've talked about already, what would you say are some of the really sticky points for people?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like it could be easy to just be like, oh, it's just the flip side of everything that I said before, but it's not always the case. Like there can certainly be people who really do still have that passion and really do still understand that why, and it might not necessarily automatically translate to that business thriving. And some of the pieces that can really come up, I think it can often be, not feeling empowered to be able to make the decisions that need to be made within your business, not feeling that confidence to be able to bring your business to other places or take that next step, or make the leap from doing it part-time off the side of your desk to doing it full-time. So that can certainly be one of the things that comes up that provide or presents a challenge. But I mean, there's also a ton of external factors that come into play, and that is not something to be overlooked. So I don't want to move forward and say, oh, it's only a mindset thing or it's only a culture thing. But certainly there are things like structure, or there are barriers that exist within the world. There are systemic barriers that exist. There's like financing that often becomes an issue, which are all certainly really big pieces as well. But in terms of things that can be changed or can be managed by the entrepreneur, and things that are within their own control. I do find it's often kind of that empowerment to make those big decisions, that confidence, and then also mm, the ability to kind of let go, and the ability to bring on a team and feel that you can kind of give up some of these pieces of your business, not give them up, but like pass them off to other people without feeling like a very strong possessiveness over it.
And I think that is a big challenge for a lot of people. I was also thinking when you were speaking that sometimes for the idea of growing a business or you putting yourself out there are these limiting beliefs that we carry within ourselves. And the one that just popped into my mind was like, I'm not worthy of
Mhm.
growth or success or things along that line. And that's one of the reasons we talk about worldview awareness being so important, because it really allows us to think about, who we are and where our worldviews come from, and then what that means in terms of both where we can grow and what we can embrace for who we are and what we want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to that point, sometimes what can be a challenge for folks is like they don't see themselves in those big businesses. Like they don't see women having those unicorn businesses often in Canada, or even sometimes it's Canadian businesses. Like they don't see themselves represented. They don't see examples of where they can go and where they can grow. So it can often be that too, of like, I've never seen anybody do this before, so why should I be the one to do it? Like, who am I to be the only person to kind of make that big jump? And so to your point about limiting beliefs, like absolutely that's a big factor there as well.
And I know that my business is certified as a women-owned business, and I have to say, after all these years of being in business, like it still is a bit gives me a bit of cognitive dissonance to think that women-owned businesses qualify as diverse suppliers.
Mm.
But as you mentioned, there are systemic barriers that show up. And we know that women entrepreneurs have a harder time getting financing or getting support of other things. And I just want to put a plug in for the forum here around the ability and the awareness of the forum in supporting women in finding the resources that they need to help grow their businesses.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, I think so much of these opportunities come from having a really strong network, a really strong community. And so that's part of the work that we do, is being able to offer that community those resources, those connections that might not come up organically, because it's, as like you said, it seems wild to say still that women just aren't in the room sometimes during these conversations. And so that's certainly something that we want to change. We want to make sure that those connections are being made, because yeah, it can be super valuable. Even one conversation can change the trajectory of a business.
Yeah, it sure can. And I really value women lifting each other up for success, however that looks. And I'm a big champion of supporting, well, of supporting anyone, but certainly of supporting women in business and in trying to make their mark in the world.
Yeah, and that shows, Kathy, and all of the conversations that I've had with you, and in all of the conversations I know that you've had, both in one-to-one mentorships and group mentorships. And I mean, I can't thank you enough for all of the support that you have given. You've been that conversation for other entrepreneurs that have had huge impacts and huge shifts in their business because of some of those conversations that they've been having with you. So thank you so much also for all of the work that you've done.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. As we get to the end of our time here in this conversation, is there anything else that you would like to say about workplace culture or the work that the forum does, or any general reflections that you'd like to contribute?
There's so many, but I will try to choose just a couple so that I'm not taking too much time here. But I think when I think about the forum specifically, and some of the magic, for lack of a better way of putting it, that we have both within our internal team and within our community, I want to say, like, never underestimate the power of celebrating others, whether that be your teammates, celebrating yourself and your own wins, celebrating the wins of others that you see. We love to in all of our team meetings, I said they start with a personal and a professional celebration. And we also love to, in our big town hall meetings where everyone is there, we start with one celebration from somebody else on the team. So like making sure that you're going out of your way to acknowledge the work that the others on your team are doing. But then also acknowledging the incredible achievements of the entrepreneurs in our community. We love to do that too. And I think that that's something that it feels so small, but it really does have such a big impact. And just that reminder of like, even the small wins are wins and they can help move you forward. Never forgetting that is something that I want to just make mention of here as well.
That's a valuable reflection to share. I think sometimes we're so busy looking ahead at how far we still have to go that we forget to take a moment and look back and see how far we've come. Before we got on this call, you and I were talking about how long it takes sometimes for things to develop to a point of being able to launch them or announce them. And then all of a sudden it seems like you're here, but if we're not recognizing everything that's gone into getting us to this point, then we are missing a key part of who we are, how we've been successful, and what it is that we do have to celebrate.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And that can go back to what we were saying about the limiting beliefs or the fear of like, I'm not able to do it. It's like sometimes if you look back, it's like, oh, I've done all of this. I can absolutely keep doing this going forward.
Yeah, I think that is also a part of the value of being able to be in conversation with other business owners because we can remind ourselves and each other that it truly has been a journey and to acknowledge the achievements along the way.
Mhm. Totally, totally.
Awesome. Well, Jacqueline, thank you so much for being here with me today in this conversation. I learned more things about the forum and your team, which I really appreciate. And I'm looking forward to getting this video launched so that other people can see both the good work of the forum, but also understand some of the key ingredients of a healthy workplace culture.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kathy. It's always lovely to chat and I so appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, looking forward to seeing the video go live.
Go to worldviewprograms.com to learn more about our healthy workplace culture program options.